Once again, it is my privilege to welcome all of you here. Thank you for joining us on this joyful occasion. As many people would know, this month in the Tibetan lunar calendar is considered to be extremely powerful for any type of practice that we might do. It's the holy month of Sakadawa, which includes the day of Buddha's birth, enlightenment, and passing away, which this year falls on June 4th. But beyond that, the entire month is considered to be an ideal period for practice, and especially for the different types of practice that connect us more deeply to the Buddha, to his teachings or the Dharma, and to the Sangha or the spiritual community of which we might be a part. And this last bit is what we're going to focus on today. But before going into a practice focused on our connection to the Sangha, we will, as usual, revisit some of the foundational practices that have been taught to us by our lineage masters, including Lama Alan Wallace, starting with the wonderful and beautiful practice of settling our body, speech, and mind in their natural states, which, of course, in the Tibetan tradition originates in the teachings of Guru Rinpoche Padmasambhava. And some people simply like to refer to that practice as a relaxation exercise, which is also a totally valid way of describing it. But to do that, we might want to first find a comfortable stationary position that would allow for relaxation to occur. And so whether you're keeping your camera on or off, let's just spend a few moments to find a suitable stationary position that would support our body. And of course, since all of us are different, our bodies are different, our abilities are different, our health levels are different, the position that we might prefer to use might be different from what other people are using. So it's perfectly fine to do this practice and the next practice in the supine position, for example, lying flat on our back in the Shavasana posture, or sitting upright, either on a chair or something similar, or on a cushion with our legs crossed. And the first act of kindness that we might perform with regards to our body, speech, and mind is simply adopting such a suitable position and then adjusting the different elements of our body, the different parts of our body, in the way that would be most suitable for the practice. It's as if we're arranging a mandala to offer to the enlightened beings. Except the mandala that we're arranging is the mandala of the 5 elements of our body. And the foundation of that mandala is the earth element. So we bring our awareness to the parts of the body that are currently in contact with the ground. Observing the sensations arising in those body parts. Noticing the firmness, the stability, the stillness there. The sense of being supported and held by the earth. And with that, allowing any type of tension that might be present in the associated body parts, in our feet, toes, legs, buttocks, our pelvic floor, and so forth. Allowing all those types of tension to melt away, to dissolve without a trace. Establishing this very stable and firm foundation of a profound sense of stillness in the lower half of our body. And then allowing the same experience of relaxed ease to spread throughout our torso, starting with our abdominal area, encompassing our diaphragm, our lower back, and then the upper half of our torso with our chest, our shoulders, our upper arms, elbows, forearms, and then our hands and fingers. And then from the tips of our fingers that are hopefully resting in complete stillness, being deeply relaxed, we can come back up to our shoulders and then explore the sensations around our neck and our throat. Equally releasing the tension there, but not simply the physical tension, because it is in this area of our throat, or our throat center, that we can also release the wish to currently use our ability to speak, to verbalize, to vocalize. Rather allowing our speech to settle down in a state of effortless silence. And then moving on to the back of our head, to our crown, and to our facial muscles. Relaxing them deeply, releasing tension, and just allowing ourselves to rest there. And this dynamic equilibrium where our material energy, this network of energy that we call the body, is experiencing greater and greater levels of relaxation, stillness, and vigilance that allows us to stay awake and present. Continuously releasing tension and deliberate types of movement, of activity with each new out-breath. We will continue the process of settling our mind in its natural state by connecting to the experiences associated with the process of breathing. There's a number of different ways to settle the mind in its natural state within the context of this larger practice, but for now we can connect it to these changing sensations associated with the process of breathing and arising throughout our physical energetic field. By observing them, we release different thoughts and ideas related to the past, related to the future, or overanalyzing the present. Rather resting in the immediacy of these changing sensations. For example, the overall expansion and contraction of our body that occurs when we breathe in and when we breathe out. One cycle after another. And then with our body releasing tension, resting in that equilibrium of relaxation, stillness, and vigilance, with our mind settling down in a state that equally entails relaxation, stability, and clarity, with our speech being silent, we can also undertake a different type of settling described in the teachings of Lera Blingpa, and that is settling down in a profoundly vast and beneficial motivation. Another kind of a preliminary step that is necessary for any meaningful practice. And so we bring our highest aspirations to mind. Using them as the solid ground, the solid foundation for our contemplative life in general, and for our presence in this world. And for this community practice as well. And these highest aspirations for many of us would include or be primarily focused around bodhicitta, the wish to realize full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. But for some of us, that can be expanded upon with the more immediate goals that we want to realize before we reach full awakening. So we can weave those in as well. But what's important is to spend a few moments breathing life into those aspirations, settling down within them. Knowing that no matter what would happen in these meditation sessions that we're doing together, no matter what would happen in our life with regards to different circumstances, challenges, experiences, and so forth, these foundational aspirations would be still at the heart of our path. And they would serve as the sole thread that we can hold onto as we make one step after another. So let's strengthen that wish together for a few moments, breathing life into it. Passionately wishing for that full awakening and for the fulfillment of all the subsidiary goals. And then allowing our awareness to settle down in a state where there is no particular reference point, just open, clear spaciousness. And then from there, returning to the experiences of the body for a short while, just to anchor ourselves there, to experience that sense of grounding. And then gradually introducing a tiny bit of movement to the body, rocking back and forth, moving our fingers and our toes, reconnecting to our physical energy. And then from the sense of being embodied, transitioning into a short break that we can use to drink some water, to move around a little bit, to stretch, to change our position, and to prepare ourselves for the community practice of boundless loving kindness. And once again, let's just keep in mind this idea that even these short breaks are a suitable time to train in loving kindness and compassion, empathetic joy, equanimity, mindful awareness, and so forth. So we're just taking about 60 seconds really to be kind towards ourselves, or to smile to the other participants, or to think of the other participants and extend our best wishes to all of them, knowing that right now, as we're doing this practice together in real time or by means of a recording, we are all an interconnected network, a contemplative consciousness network, quite literally, or a network of practitioners that are living a contemplative life in order to bring about the greatest possible expressions, the best possible expressions of wisdom and compassion and union. Cheers to that. And then we gradually find ourselves preparing for the next part of this practice, and that is meditation on boundless loving kindness. Once again, as some people might remember, the spiritual director of the CCN is Lama Alan Wallace, and his Tibetan name or his monastic name from when he was a monk for many, many years, Jampa Kelsang, literally translates as the fortunate eon of loving kindness. So when we're practicing under his guidance, if we are inspired by his books, his teachings, the practices that he's sharing with us, and all those practices came from his masters, that many of us also have a connection to. We are literally experiencing fortunate eon of loving kindness, or we can experience that if we tap into that energy and into those methods. So let's play around with one of those practices focused on loving kindness. But this will continue on this theme of melting that was mentioned in the first meditation. Melting is a metaphor or an expression that is very frequently used by His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche, one of Lama Alan's mentors and one of the greatest living yogis of our time. Many people would be familiar with his incredible life story and his incredible teachings. And Garchen Rinpoche in particular talks about how different types of practice, including loving kindness, or especially loving kindness, especially love, allow us to gradually experience this process of melting as our self-grasping, self-centeredness, and so forth melt, as they disappear, as the solidity of our mind, of our gross mind melts, and we experience the freely flowing waters of awakening. So we played around with that a little bit when we were releasing tension. Now we're going to explore this theme of melting by means of loving kindness. So let's find a comfortable stationary position. And once again, start by adjusting the different parts of our body to arrange our body as we would arrange a mandala, a beautiful symbolic universe to offer in order to attain awakening. Except the offering that we're doing right now is the offering of our practice. So we're checking on the different parts of the body and making sure there are two primary qualities present there: stability and ease. The body is stable enough to support us in this practice, so we're not falling over. We're hopefully not fidgeting too much either. And yet the body is becoming more and more and more deeply relaxed. So we'll spend some time doing exactly that, releasing greater and greater levels of tension with each new exhalation. And then with our body resting in this state where each exhalation is bringing greater and greater levels of release, greater and greater levels of relaxation, stillness, vigilance, we can revisit our highest aspirations, reconnecting to them as the foundation of our practice in general. And we can then slowly transition into the practice of loving kindness proper by first attending to ourselves as an object an object of loving kindness, or the wish for a being to be happy and have the causes of happiness. So we first attend to ourselves as a being that is associated with a body, associated with a mind, associated with a name, associated with specific personal history. How that being actually exists is a big and interesting question for insight practices. But for now, we're just noticing that this being that we call me, on the deepest level, always wants to be happy, to experience joy, lightness, ease, pleasure, well-being. And for that needs the appropriate causes of happiness. And this vulnerable core of an aspiration, of a wish, of a primordial instinct has nothing to do with being worthy or not worthy, deserving or undeserving. Because it is this foundational energy that could manifest as the greatest possible villain or the greatest possible enlightened source of goodness for all who live. So in attending to this very core of our being, this foundational energy that might be shaped into anything and everything, we generate a truly vast motivation, aspiration, wish, desire, intention. May I be happy and have the causes of happiness. Meaning, may my energy gradually evolve into a form that would be associated with the greatest possible benefit, happiness, and well-being for myself and for all who live. And everything that's standing in the way of that, different types of grasping, tunnel vision, incorrect views, and so forth, may it all melt away. And so, may I be happy and have the causes of happiness. We rest with that wish, we generate it again and again, and we strengthen it with each new exhalation. May I be happy and have the causes of happiness. And then, in our attempts to connect to an intentional community that is focused on cultivating loving kindness and wisdom and compassion and generosity and so forth, we can think of all the other practitioners in this network, literally a network of contemplatives across the world, participating in this practice in real time, or as it's described in the Dzogchen teachings, in a time beyond time, on Zoom or by means of a recording. That's quite a lot of individuals, and yet all of them have the same vulnerable core of simply wishing to be happy, to have joy, to experience well-being. May we be happy and have the causes of happiness. And so already with that, the solidity of the line around us as an individual begins to melt away. Not because we all become one giant bowl of cosmic soup, but because there's a profound sense of interbraiding, interdependence, interconnectedness, or as the master Thich Nhat Hanh used to call it, interbeing. And within this experience of interbeing, we strengthen the wish of loving kindness. May we be happy and have the causes of happiness. And then as this process of melting continues, as our mind becomes more and more open towards everyone, towards all who live, we can transition to the next wish, next aspiration, next way to express our boundless loving kindness by thinking, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. Or may all beings be happy and have the causes of happiness, if we prefer. And then releasing that aspiration and all aspirations really to rest in an experience of clear, open spaciousness, perhaps still suffused with the afterglow of loving kindness proper. And if in these moments we come to an approximation of our pristine awareness, we'll rest in that approximation. That's wonderful. And then out of that restful, easeful state arises the wish of dedication for this specific meditation, or immediately dedicate the energy of this practice to the highest aspirations with which we began. And then we come back to the body to ground ourselves there once again. And then to introduce some movement to the body as a tool that we use to be in a community, to connect to each other, to do good deeds, to share good words. And then we gently transition into our physical space and into the shared online space so that we can take a very short break. Once again, using these seconds to be kind to ourselves, to move around a little bit, to shift, to stretch, to drink some water. And if you wish, you can use this time to share in our chat where you are right now physically. Where are you joining us from for this shared community practice? Because it's lovely to be able to imagine ourselves on a global map as little glowing dots of contemplative living, and to feel that sense of connection to others in this community of practice. Yeah, so there's many wonderful geographical locations listed here. I'm not going to read them all out, and I know that that means people in the recording will not be able to access them, but suffice it to say, there's many different places and people from all over joining us, and it's really beautiful. It's just so wonderful to see all of us connecting from all over. And of course, there will be so many more people using this recording later. It's always lovely actually to be getting feedback about these practices and the rest of our program as the CCN. So I'm very deeply grateful to all of you and would like to use this opportunity to also bow to all who participate in the CCN events, and especially to those who support the CCN by means of their financial generosity, time-related generosity, attentional generosity. These are all invaluable gifts that allow us to continue this work, and for some of us also quite literally allow us to stay alive. On this note, before we transition into the final practice, which will include a little bit of visualization, and for those who want also some chanting, I would like to use this opportunity to invite all of you to join our annual retreat, which is coming up in August, our annual retreat on loving kindness. And this will be an opportunity to practice loving kindness in a manner somewhat similar to what we've done just now, but there will be many, many, many different techniques, specific techniques that we're going to be using there. And of course, although many people cannot join physically because Wales is not particularly close to them in terms of the geographic location, there's an opportunity to join the retreat online in real time by Zoom or by means of a recording. Some people have told us over these years that they've been using recordings from similar loving kindness retreats that we've done in other places in the past as the support for their daily practice. Well, and also we have received some wonderful feedback from the participants of this year's 8-week retreat taught by Lama Alan, telling us that our recent offerings on loving kindness, compassion, and so forth have been incredibly supportive to them as they're gradually making their way into the depths of advanced Dzogchen teachings. There's wonderful complementarity there. So please consider joining. And it's so wonderful to have your support. We're really grateful for that. And we will now meditate on that support by meditating on the historical Sangha that came before us, the Sangha that exists beyond time and beyond space. And we will use a traditional practice that has been taught in many different ways across many different traditions. But one major figure that connects us to this practice, and that is also a figure that we are connected to through Lama Alan and through His Holiness the Dalai Lama and through many other teachers, is the figure of Panchen Losang Chökyi Gyaltsen, who is familiar to many people as the author of the Mahamudra text, the root text of the Gelug Kagyu Mahamudra that Lama Alan have taught from many, many times. Panchen Losang Chökyi Gyaltsen composed many other incredibly precious practice texts, including a Stages of the Path text called Easy Way, or the Easy Path, or Blissful Path. A very powerful way of connecting to the Guru principle by means of a practice called Guru Puja, or Lama Chopa, as many people would know it. Many, many other practice texts. And this specific meditation on connecting to the Sangha comes from both the Guru Puja that he wrote and the Easy Path or the Blissful Path texts. So it will include a little bit of visualization, but also will primarily revolve around establishing a feeling or an understanding. So even if it is difficult to visualize, that's not a problem. We will primarily focus on just thinking something's happening, feeling something's happening, and opening ourselves up. That's the main idea. So let's find a comfortable stationary position, and once again, spend some moments establishing a profound sense of stability and ease as we release both the deliberate movement and the physical tension with each new out-breath. And then resting in this equilibrium and continuing with the process of release and relaxation, we reestablish a truly positive, truly vast and profound motivation for this practice by returning to our highest aspirations, which would probably include bodhicitta, or ideally even be centered around bodhicitta, the wish to attain full awakening for the benefit of all, to fully wake up, so as to guide and liberate all beings. A passionate wish to no longer be asleep under the influence of our delusions, under the cover of the two obscurations. No more of that. I want to fully wake up to the nature of reality. But not just for myself, for all beings. So that the boundless field of my own awakened energy can serve all beings and bring them to the greatest possible happiness. And then leaving that motivation in the back of our mind as the foundation for the ensuing practice, for a little while we rest in open, spacious clarity with no reference point, or even in an approximation of pristine awareness that's available to us. That's our practice of the aspect of simplicity. Freedom from elaboration. And it implies a certain understanding of non-inherent existence, of the fact that no entity, no phenomenon exists inherently or independently. And because reality exists interdependently, it is malleable, and it is not limited to only our current perception. There are other levels of reality, and on one of those levels, we are currently practicing in a pure Buddha field. And so we can imagine ourselves there. We are in a beautiful, pristine Buddha field, filled with natural beauty that reflects all the qualities of the holy Dharma. We're sitting on a vast, beautiful field where the ground itself is like turquoise mixed with gold, and yet soft, supportive, fertile, rich. And all around us are numerous expressions of natural beauty. Streams of fresh, pristinely pure water, lakes, majestic mountains, trees with leaves whispering the sounds of Dharma. Gentle glowing light filling everything. Dancing rainbows. All expressions of the mind's natural luminosity. And in the space in front, in the open and vast sky, we can imagine all the holy beings surrounding the archetypal expression of awakening, the Buddha himself and the aspect of Buddha Shakyamuni, inseparable from our spiritual teacher. And all the genuine spiritual teachers, the root and lineage lamas as it's sometimes described. And alternatively, we can build a more structured visualization in which the Buddha, inseparable from our root teacher and the lineage teachers, is in the very center, sitting on the lotus flower and the discs of sun and moon. And then to his right, to our left, is Maitreya, the future Buddha, surrounded by all the lineage masters that have transmitted the teachings of vast conduct. To Buddha's left, which is to our right, is Manjushri, the Buddha of wisdom, surrounded by all the teachers that have transmitted teachings on the profound view of emptiness. Behind the Buddha is Buddha Vajradhara, the originator of all tantric instruction, surrounded by all the lineage lamas associated with that, with profound Vajrayana practices. And in front of the Buddha are our actual root teachers in this life, who we can imagine in their actual forms, accompanied by all the meditation deities, Arhats and Pratika Buddhas, or Arhats from the categories of Shravakas and Pratika Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Dakinis, Dakas, or Vedas and Verinis, and the realized Dharma protectors who are themselves noble beings and not simply worldly spirits. And this entire gathering in front of us, whether we imagine it in a structured or unstructured way, is not simply a reflection of our own mind's mental luminosity or clarity, but an array of windows into the profound reality for all beings. And in looking at all these masters, great yoginis and yogis, archetypal deities, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Shravakas and Pratika Buddhas, and so forth, we can feel as if we were in the presence of a boundless collection of benefactors, a boundless gathering of benefactors radiating love and compassion towards us. So it's important to take some time to absorb that care, that love that was with us even before we came into this specific lifetime, and will be with us until we attain full awakening ourselves. And so we can connect to these qualities of warmth, tenderness, and spaciousness for a little while. And then we, in particular, can focus on this idea of Sangha. On the mundane level, it means community. So a Sangha can refer to any community that we belong to, really, but is usually reserved for our spiritual communities. And that includes centers that we go to, networks that we join in practice, international communities, local communities, and so forth. I sometimes say, that's my Sangha, that these are the people that I practice with. Then there's the ordained Sangha, which serves as a symbol of the actual refuge Sangha, and these are ordained monastics. And sometimes this category is expanded to also include ordained tantric practitioners and the ordained tantrikas, ngakpas and ngakmas, those who truly dedicate themselves to profound practices. But even that is, in a way, a symbol, and the actual Sangha of noble beings consists of all those who have attained genuine realizations. Actual bodhisattvas, actual vidyadharas, and so forth. But beyond that, in a strict and technical sense or meaning of that word, the Sangha refers to the realizations themselves. So the parts of beings that are realized, the insights, the realizations, the different facets of liberation, these are the ultimate types of Sangha that we connect to. And yet, from another point of view, we know these are all already present within the Buddha nature of all beings, at least as a potential, or in some traditions, as an actuality. So there's this beautiful dance of Sangha that is already manifest and that exists as a potentiality. And the qualities and the support of that Sangha can flow towards us through any being, through any community. Even though, of course, specific beings and specific communities manifest those types of support and inspiration more clearly. So we can rest in that in our gratitude for the support of the Sangha and in our wish to rely on that support more strongly, to absorb that support, to be nourished by this supporting flow of energy that allows us to uncover the qualities of our own Buddha nature. Panchen Losang Chökyi Gyaltsen teaches us to recite a 4-line formula of taking refuge or inviting refuge, or invoking the energy of refuge. And this formula can be recited as all the 4 lines together, repeated again and again, or it can be taken apart. And yet it's always auspicious to first recite it as all the lines together. So we'll do that 3 times if we wish, feeling that we're connecting to the ultimate guru, that is the body of truth, the Dharmakaya, to the Buddhas, to the Dharma itself, and then finally to the Sangha. And we'll work with that last line for a little while using specific visualizations. Namo Guru Bhya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sangaya, Namo Guru Bhya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sangaya, Namo Guru Bhya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sangaya. And then to focus on this last thing, this last line of I pay homage to the Sangha, which is a formula that allows us to connect to the Sangha's qualities more deeply. The first part of this is to imagine that there are boundless streams of white light and nectar streaming forth from all the objects in the refuge field, this field that we imagine in front of us. And these white streams of nectar and light represent the pacification of everything that would keep us disconnected from the Sangha, and that includes all the negative barriers that we have erected from our own side by being negative towards genuine spiritual communities that we might have a chance to connect to, being destructive towards our spiritual companions, harming them in different ways, lying to them, stealing from them, cheating them, and so forth. Whatever it is that we might have done that was negative with regards to our spiritual communities and the members of those communities, and especially realized beings and ordained beings throughout all of our lifetimes, all of that gets purified, pacified, disappears without a trace. And some people like to imagine that these negativities leave their bodies and then disappear without a trace once they have left the body. Some like to imagine them being dispelled instantly, as if the darkness was getting dispelled by boundless light. And while we imagine this process of the removal of obstacles, the removal of negativities, the purification of negativities, we quietly to ourselves recite Namo Sanghaya, this last line, for a little while, allowing it to do its work of purifying us as we're using our speech constructively. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. So we continue reciting and feeling purified in this manner. The barriers are disappearing so that we can connect to the Sangha more deeply. Being more engaged, quite literally, more open to the flow of inspiration. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Sanghaya. And then, for the second half of this practice, we imagine that there's golden light and golden nectar that flows into us from all the holy beings in the space in front of us. All these beings are windows into our own highest potential. And this golden warm light, this golden nectar, they represent the multiplication, the enrichment, the process of granting us all the positive qualities or multiplying these positive qualities. And in particular, it is said that we think and imagine that from all the bodhisattvas on the path, from all the realized bodhisattvas, we are receiving qualities of bodhicitta, great compassion, 6 paramitas, the 4 immeasurables, the ability to perform all the activities of a bodhisattva. From the realized arhats, we're receiving mastery in the 3 higher trainings of morality, concentration, and wisdom. From the Dakinis and the Dakas, we are receiving qualities, the Vajrayana qualities of primordial wisdom, of inseparable bliss and emptiness, and especially the ability to gain full awakening in just one lifetime. And from all the Dharma protectors, we're getting the qualities of the 4 types of enlightening activity: the ability to pacify, the ability to enrich or increase, the ability to magnetize, and the ability to eliminate all the obstacles, all the negativities. And with that, absorbing this golden light, thinking that all these qualities within us are becoming stronger and stronger with each moment, we do a little bit more of the recitation. Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya. Namo Sangaya. And then we take a few moments to just rest in this feeling that we have been purified and that all these positive qualities that we were thinking about have indeed been strengthened, increased, that it definitely happened. And this effect will definitely stay with us. And we continue building on it, upon it, as we continue training on the path. And then we imagine that all the figures surrounding the central image, central form of the Buddha, melt into light, except for our living teachers, because our living teachers just become teeny tiny and enter the Buddha's heart. And then everyone else just melts into light and absorbs into the Buddha as that light. And then it's just us and the Buddha, a mirror image of our own full awakening. And quite often, the following visualization is for the Buddha to melt into light and absorb into us. But there's also a flip version of that. And in this flip version, which we can use this time, we ourselves melt into light, and we ourselves dissolve in the heart of the Buddha. And then we release all concepts, all ideas, all visualizations, all types of elaboration, and we rest in the aspect of simplicity once again. Our body, speech, and mind, the Buddha's body, speech, and mind, the body, speech, and mind of our teachers, and all the realized members of the Sangha are non-dual. And out of that simplicity arises the dedication. We mentally dedicate the energy of this practice to our highest aspirations, to full awakening, to the long life of our teachers, to the peace and well-being for all who live, and especially to the peace and well-being of all the beings on this planet right now, so that all the signs of this degenerate age might completely dissipate. And then as a special additional dedication, we recite this verse, if we want, of the aspiration of nonviolence. May the precious conduct of nonviolence arise where it has not arisen. Where it has arisen, may it never wane, but continue to increase forevermore. And with that, our community practice for today and for this month is finished. Deep bows of gratitude to all of you for joining us today. Please consider making a donation to the CCN General Fund or becoming a regular supporter. And please definitely consider joining our retreat in August. And on a more immediate note, our Dharma Cafe next week. It will be lovely to see all of you again. We're very much hoping to keep meeting each other again and again, many, many times. And for now, wishing you a beautiful weekend and see you all soon. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.